Dun 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 dun. Congrats to those who finally decided to put a ring on it and found someone to spend the rest of their lives with. But what if, on that wedding night, they were forced to spend it with the dead as well? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and be warned. For the ghostly wedding crashers. Wedding ghosts? Lately, we have felt a presence in our house. First, we heard footsteps. Then it graduated to hearing people whispering in our hallway. Everything seems to happen upstairs, where all the bedrooms are. One night I was in bed, lying there awake. About 3 a.m., I felt a hand touch my face. I was startled but not scared. My fiancé was in the bed next to me, sleeping, so I know it wasn't him. The weird thing is, I felt comforted. It wasn't a scary feeling. His mother lives with us and isn't in the best health. The other night, she wasn't feeling good and was in bed when she felt something pass through her. She described it as a puff going through her, and she felt better afterwards. Sometimes, when I'm down in the basement, the light flickers. We are getting married soon. Do you think this could have an effect on ghosts coming around? On the 5th anniversary of my fiancé's father's death, a watch he had been missing for months showed up in the middle of our floor. I almost stepped on it. In the meantime, we had a time change, and the watch was now the right time. I think there is more than one ghost here, none of which I fear. I wish some of our relatives that have passed could be at our wedding and have voiced my opinion about this. I wonder if it's that brought them around. The girl who admired the dress. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the day before my auntie's wedding, and we were staying in my grandmother's old mansion. My cousin, who can be quite immature and silly at times, said that this place is haunted. I didn't believe her, of course. Our family are strong believers of the paranormal activity in the world, and I have no doubt in my mind that what I saw was a ghost. It had been a very busy day, so everyone decided to settle down and go to bed, except for my grandmother, who was staying up just finishing off putting all the flowers together. My cousin and I were lucky enough to sleep in the biggest room of the house, where we kept all the dresses. There was a French window where the bride's dress was hung up in its covers, all neat and tidy for the big day. Anyways, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw a girl who looked like she was in her late teens. Her skin was incredibly pale, almost blue. She was wearing a short white dress and had long dark hair. My auntie had invited everyone in the village to the wedding, so I assumed that it was someone trying to sneak a look at the dress beforehand. So I sat up and said, "Hey, why are you here? Did Nana let you in? You're not meant to see the dress before the wedding." I asked her to leave, but she didn't move. I suddenly felt quite nervous and didn't want to get up and usher her out the room. So I sat there and watched her as she admired and stroked the bride's dress. I fell asleep at some point, and in the morning I told my cousin what had happened. The mansion was so old that they had photos and paintings of all the families that had ever lived there. So we went searching around the house to see if we could find anything. Eventually, I found a photo of the girl in one of the lounges. It was dated in the 1800s. We were both very shocked and told our family immediately. As I said before, we all believe in ghosts, spirits, and demons, so this was taken very seriously. I haven't been in that mansion since. What exactly happened that day? To start off, my name is Tria, and I am from Mauritius. I am from a Hindu family, so there's a lot of rituals to be performed when there is a wedding. This incident happened during my cousin's marriage when I was only 8 years old. Normally, a Hindu marriage lasts for 4 days in Mauritius. On the 4th day, the groom's mother and some women in the family have to go pray in a holy place like a temple. So, for my cousin's marriage, my aunt and some other women went to that holy place. When they reached there, my sister-in-law noticed that something was wrong. The place was a mess. There was blood on the floor where offerings were to be. There was lemon, coconut pins, red powder, and a hen without its head. It is believed that these things are used while performing black magic. As my sister-in-law was very carefree about these things at the time, she took a stick and cleared the place so that my aunt could place the offerings there. Everything went well after that day. Until a week later. As a kid, I still couldn't understand what was going on. I remember my mother told me that we have to go to my sister-in-law's place as she was very sick, and that I had to be very disciplined as the doctor was very strict. When we went there, I could see that my 2 aunts and uncles sitting around the dining table. My mother and father joined them, and they told me to go to the bedroom where my cousins were. But I was too scared, so I stayed with my mother, sitting on her lap. I witnessed everything. In front of the table, there was the doctor, who I later found out was a sorcerer. So the sorcerer was sitting on the floor encircled by candles, lemons, etc. He chanted some prayers and told my aunt to bring my sister-in-law. To my horror, when my sister-in-law came, I was terrified at her sight. She was frightening to look at. Her hair was all over her face, her eyes were red, and her lips were curved into a wicked smile. But as soon as she noticed the sorcerer, she started to manifest. That is, she started talking in a manly voice and acting violently. The sorcerer said something to her, and she started dancing and moving her head as if she was possessed. As a child, I was terrified to look at the scene, so I closed my eyes and held my mom tightly. I kept on hearing the chants until I fell asleep. The next day when I woke up, I tried to ask my mother what had happened, but she told me to forget what happened. After that day, when I saw my sister-in-law again, she was perfectly well. But I do want to know what exactly happened. Why did she behave like that? Mom's visit before wedding. Just a bit of history before I start. My mom passed away in 2002, at the age of 37, from the complications of lupus. I was 19 years old, I am now 32. Last year, September, was my wedding, and we had been planning for over 8 months. Needless to say, wedding planning is extremely stressful, and brides can become overwhelmed and very emotional. Like any wedding, moms tend to play a big part in the planning period, and I was getting really tired and frustrated because there were tons of stuff to do and no one to advise me or help except my younger sister. My fiance, now husband, and I were getting very frustrated with each other. One day, about 3 weeks prior to the wedding, we had a huge argument. His mother was behaving as if it was her wedding, and I really had enough. I started crying and was very angry with God because I felt like I had no one to back me up. That evening, I went home after work and just got into bed. I needed a break from it all. Usually I would go home and pray and then cook. I lived alone, so I just got into bed and went to sleep. At about 8 p.m., I woke up and checked the time. Everything felt so calm and peaceful in the house that I guess at some point again I drifted off and started dreaming. I could hear footsteps walking towards my bedroom from the lounge area, and someone pushed the door open. It was my mom. She walked to the other side of my bed and got in. By now I had sat up in bed and she takes my hand and says, "Stop stressing so much and don't worry. Everything will be okay. The wedding is going to be wonderful. I am with you through this and I will be at the wedding. Help is coming." She then told me to go back to sleep, gave me a hug, and we both went to sleep. I woke up early the next morning to the smell of my mom lingering in my bedroom and all around me. As soon as I got into work that morning, my phone rang and it was a close friend who is like a second mother to my sister and I. She's about 4 years younger than what my mom would be today, and have been through similar experiences in life. We will call her A. She says, "I'm so sorry I've been so busy, but I've made myself available from now until the wedding to help with anything you need." She took on the role of my mother for the next few weeks. The night before the wedding, my sister and I stayed over at A's house because it was closer to the wedding venue. She sat with my sister and I that night and said that a few weeks ago she dreamt of my mom, and even though my mom didn't ask her to help me, she knew that that's what she had to do. I know that even though those were just dreams, I felt that my mom was right there, and the dreams were her way of communicating with us. After the wedding, when I had a few moments alone, I thanked my mom. I felt a huge warm feeling come over me and smelled her in the air again.